The honourable member for Thornhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to split my time with the honourable member from Hastings, Lennox and Addington. And I'd like to begin today by reading our motion so that folks at home and here in this House know exactly what we're debating today. So given that the government has announced a temporary 3-year pause to the federal carbon tax on home heating oil, the House call on the government to extend that pause to all forms of home heating. It's not that complicated. It's a reasonable, common sense, fair-minded motion, and that is what we are asking for today with the vote on Monday. So we'll see what members of this House do, and I'm sure those at home will be watching very carefully how each member of Parliament votes on this. The Prime Minister gave it to some, and now he needs to give it to everyone. I've been in politics a long time, behind the scenes and now in these benches, and I've seen rising stars, and I've seen good public servants, and I've seen careers come to an end in good ways and in ways that are truly ugly. But I have never witnessed a climb down as utterly humiliating and so blatantly transparent as the one that we saw from the Prime Minister. A government that has spent 8 years forcing its carbon tax on Canadians, its signature policy, insisting that it was good for the environment, insisting that it won't make life more unaffordable, insisting that it was the right thing to do. And to anyone who said otherwise must be a climate change denier or dangerous to the future, now admits that the carbon tax causes misery for Canadians while failing to meet their own emissions target just months after the Liberal and their NDP abettors voted down the motion to remove the carbon tax from home heating. You can't make this stuff up, Madam Speaker. For 8 years, they ignored the science, they ignored the feedback from businesses who decided to close up shop or move south. They ignored the cries from everyday Canadians who couldn't put food on the table or put gas in their cars, or heat their homes. They caused pain and suffering for the economy, for small businesses, for people who made sacrifices, took an extra job, went bankrupt because of the high inflation caused by runaway deficits, and yes, the carbon tax. What changed? The science didn't change. The affordability crisis certainly hasn't changed, although it gets worse and worse every day that they continue to make policy from that side of the House. Conservatives are now threatening to sweep Atlantic Canada and the future aspirations of the Liberal MPs sitting across the aisle. This announcement is a slap in the face to all Canadians who endured 8 years of the hardship of everyone else who was told that questioning it was somehow un-Canadian, in some way, was somehow denying climate change. The Liberal NDP government now admits that it can take the carbon tax off whenever it pleases. It could have done it a year ago, and it could have done it any day in between. But it gets even worse than that, because only certain regions get a break. Only certain types of fuel. Only some Canadians. And what adds insult to injury is that many provinces who still have to pay the carbon tax, to the people who have to heat their homes with natural gas or electricity, to the people who have to drive in a car to work, to buy groceries at a store. This move will help 3% of Canadians while everyone else remains in the literal cold. It will fundamentally threaten our national unity and our constituents' faith in the federal government, if there is any left at all. We already have provinces refusing to collect the federal carbon tax. We even have provincial NDP governments or oppositions across the country speaking out against their federal counterparts. But I ask any Liberal if you ask any Liberal why this happened, they will ramble on about some national program, some agenda, some public policy. They will fearmonger about questions about being dangerous to democracy. It's such utter nonsense. Even though home heating oil is more polluting and more costly than regular heating, they're now incentivizing it. It makes no sense. They gave the impression that this was all planned, and I find it hard to believe. They're a Prime Minister who used to so vigorously defend his carbon tax, planned out the humiliating climate down that we saw last Thursday afternoon in the lobby of this place. It was forced, plain and simple, and it was forced by a group of Atlantic MPs who are running scared. and the government that is scared of the most effective official opposition on this point and on many others. The Minister for Rural Economic Development, the Minister from Long Range Mountains in Newfoundland, was more candid in her remarks. She actually told the truth. She said that if people just voted Liberal more, they too might have a chance at getting the exemption. So now we know that anything else that those members opposite say is simply partisan spin. It is simply for vote buying. They are trying to win votes, and they are even doing that poorly. So my neighbors in the GTA have some questions for the minister. She's gone radio silent since Sunday. This is the largest concentration of Liberals anywhere in the country. I'm surrounded. Not for long, but I'm surrounded for now. Yet their voters, Canadians, still pay a carbon tax at the pump, at the grocery store, and when they heat their homes. Everyone around me. So the question is why are they not as effective as the Liberal Atlantic caucus, or maybe they don't feel that threatened? I assure you the poll numbers are certainly following there. This government just must not have strong enough MPs from the region that don't listen to their own constituents, that don't listen to people from there, that don't listen to their constituents about the affordability crisis or the need to at least alleviate some of that pain. People like MPs in places like Thunder Bay and Sudbury and places it's cold who aren't good enough advocates for their own constituents to get the exact same break that they've offered to those in Atlantic Canada. Those Canadians have been let down by their representatives, and they have been let down by the costly coalition. They're continuing to be let down. And I can assure members opposite that there will be much fewer Liberals on the other side of this House after the next election. If the costly coalition can remove the carbon tax from some Canadians, then they can remove it from all Canadians. The Prime Minister once said that a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, and it is time for him to start acting like it too. That's why we're here today, to make this costly coalition put its money where its mouth is. If they truly cared about affordability, about the cost of living, then they will take the carbon tax off for everyone, everywhere. We will know that we know that they can do that because they admitted it. The Prime Minister admitted it just outside of the doors in this place, his signature policy. And we know that we have more to do long term, because lying behind just this announcement is waiting in the wings is a quadrupling of the carbon tax for all Canadians, bringing more misery and that high carbon hypocrisy that we see so often from the Liberals and from their NDP abettors. A quote-unquote pause is not good enough, and that should be said in this House. A regional model is not good enough. The carbon tax must be killed for everyone and forever. There is a clear choice here, and the only option is to axe the carbon tax entirely. And Conservatives are the only party that will bring that to Canadians. No more pitting regions against one another, no more temporary pauses, no more quadrupling of the tax, only a massive tax cut, plain and simple. We'll get rid of the carbon tax, and we'll do it when we're elected. Yeah. We are even willing to fight that election over it. In fact, we dare the Prime Minister to go to the polls so that Canadians can have their say. They can choose to quadruple the carbon tax after this pause for 3% of Canadians, or they can choose to axe the tax. And we know what they will pick. This week is not just humiliating because the Prime Minister flip-flopped on his signature policy. It was humiliating because even Liberals are beginning to see that he's just not worth the cost. Liberal leaders like future leader Mark Carney, who split with the government on this policy, Liberals like Senator Percy Downe, the insider's insider, who used to be the chief of staff to Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. He says it's time for the Prime Minister to go. That's a ringing endorsement. After 8 years, he has divided this country between urban versus rural, rich versus those who are struggling, vaccinated against the unvaccinated. He has left us poorer and weaker at home and less respected abroad. This flip-flop is just their latest attempt, and a latest attempt at failure. It's their latest attempt to make 1 + 1 = 3, and I have a feeling that it won't be their last. It is fitting that the first snowfall of the year happened this week in Ottawa, and perhaps the Prime Minister should go take a walk in it.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.